Once upon a time, there was a little girl called Katie, and Katie liked to play The Sims. One day, Katie started building something that wasn't this, but it was super hard and annoying, and she got very frustrated. So Katie gave up and went to bed that day. And the next day went, I really need to build something for Speed Build Storytime if I want a video to come out this week. What should I build? Katie then took to Discord, where lots of people gave lots of ideas, which she's writing down in a big old list. Katie likes to have lists of ideas. Katie also likes it when somebody suggests something that she was already planning on doing, because it confirms for her that somebody actually wants to watch that. And so here we have the old woman who lived in a shoe. So here I am, building a house shaped like a shoe. It was pretty tricky, to be perfectly honest with you. I know it looks like quite a simple shape, but trying to not make it look like a huge tube or possibly something quite rude was difficult. Katie also had real trouble with these curved pieces because she forgot that there were wider curved pieces and couldn't work out why the ones she found were so small. She was looking in the wrong place. But she found them eventually. Katie cut out an awful lot of footage from this section because it was super boring. The shape took a long time. Katie also cut out a lot of footage of changing the roof textures and the wall textures on the bottomy bit and the ankle-y bit. Perhaps Katie should have looked up what the different parts of shoes are called before she tried doing this voiceover, because she doesn't know, and neither do I. Who am I, you ask? Nobody needs to know. Here's me trying to smooth out the ball of the foot, because I liked it going a bit boingy at the end. Do I mean boingy? Puffy. At the toe. I thought it looked cute and made it more shoe-like. It's a boot, really. It should be called The Old Woman Who Lived in a Boot, because I don't think a shoe has enough real estate for a home for a large family. And here I tried to do something clever with the front to make it look like bootstraps. Some might call shoelaces. I've chosen to say bootstraps today because it sounds oldie-timey, weirdy, and cool. I used the famous toddler pole that everybody who uses Tool is obsessed with. But for some reason, when I turned the poles round the second time, they were a different colour. I checked that the swatch was the same, and it was. It was on the lightest swatch, but it came out darker than the other ones, so I had to change them all to a darker swatch. And here I'm making the actual foot bit a bit shorter, which I think looked more shoe-like. It was getting a bit clowny, and it wasn't supposed to look like a clown shoe, it was supposed to look like a boot. And now we're indoors, putting in a staircase. I don't know what it is, but I have a bit of an aversion to straight stairs. I like using ladders, and I like using bendy stairs, just because we can now. Then Katie started on the interior, going upstairs to where the children will sleep. Now, if you're not familiar with the rhyme of The Old Woman Who Lived in a Shoe, allow me to read the entire thing for you. Here's the whole rhyme. Get ready, maybe make a cup of tea. There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread, and whipped them all soundly and put them to bed. That's it. That's the entire thing. I was joking when I said about getting a cup of tea. It's incredibly short, and also mentions whipping. I'm not entirely sure what this means, but I hope that it isn't suggesting that she beat her children after giving them a slightly pathetic dinner. It says she gave them broth without bread, which to me is just flavoured liquid. So she essentially gave them a drink for dinner with no carbohydrates. That can't be good for the poor kids. And they also could do with some protein, I'm sure. I hope they didn't have that every night, but that's all the information we get from the rhyme. I also question why there are quite so many children when it's just one old woman. Was she perhaps working in an adult industry? We can only speculate at this point. But what I do want to know, if that is the case, was she bringing her clients back to a shoe? I am slightly concerned that YouTube will think that this series is made for kids, when it really isn't, so maybe occasionally mentioning adult entertainment is a good idea to make sure that that gets nipped in the bud straight away. And here I'm making her room. Let's just pretend that I didn't say that stuff earlier, and just say it's magic in some way, or that there was a lovely man and now he's not there for some reason. Who knows? You may also have noticed that Katie made another octagon. I don't know why this keeps happening, but every single fairy tale house that she seems to make ends up with an octagon. But you know what she did? She said, "I'm not putting the kitchen in the octagon this time. No siree, that's not happening again, ever again, because kitchens in octagons are always annoying. And I've done loads of them recently." Well, 2. Of the 3 videos so far, she's done 2 kitchens in an octagon. That's not bad going, to be honest, but whatever. That's 2/3. So instead we end up with this galley kitchen situation. By the way, Katie made a stupid mistake at this point. She started this part of the kitchen. Oh, and there it changes drastically and everything's in the family inventory. I wonder why that is. Well, it's because Katie went to the loo and turned off the filming and forgot to start it again. She categorically says that she doesn't do this anymore and just lets it record for hours and hours, even when she's out of the room, to make sure she doesn't lose these. But she thought that maybe it was overkill and she was being a little bit paranoid. There's also a dining table you didn't see Katie put down, because she did it off camera, but it's a dining table. You get the idea. There's also a rug. And here is every light in the house as a dangly light bulb. That dangly light bulb is one of Katie's favourite lights in the whole thing. But she realised the entire build had no windows. Sure, it looked more like a shoe without windows, but it is also a place where people live. The old woman lives in the shoe, as do all her many, many children. I wanted it to look incredibly decrepit, and all the children are wearing very rough clothing. I don't know if that makes it a bit sad, but I did want them to look slightly neglected. That's kind of sad, I think. But it's storytelling. Maybe I can talk to Brenna Chan and Minraid about putting this in Merkland. It's pretty murky, but also it's a shoe, so I'm not sure if they'd be that keen. You might have seen on Twitter the other day that Katie was looking into how to get a blank save file. It's actually quite annoying to delete all the lots, but lots of people have made blank save files online which you can download, and that's exactly what Katie did. She downloaded a blank save file to put all the Speedbill story times in. I'm not going to promise that Katie is creating a save file at this point, but she is putting every build into one blank save file and not overlapping the lots. Hopefully one day, this will end up with a whole save file. Who knows? Do you mind if we have a little ad break here? I think it's probably a good space for it. I hope you're okay with that. There we go, all done. I'm only going to put one mid-roll ad in this video because it isn't that long. I could put in many, but I don't want to be a greedy little bench. At this point, much of the rest of the build is the same. We've kind of finished. I'm just putting in more grutted sponges. Yes, that's the name of that item, and it is a very amazing name. When I see things like that, it makes me really want to work for The Sims. And here I'm making a little porchy bit that I thought worked a bit better than just the staircase. Also, You may have noticed there's no railings on any of the stairs. I wanted there to be certain elements of unsafeness, that's not a word. And now I'm doing a bit of landscaping and terrain paint. I don't really know what I was thinking with this path thingy, but I basically remove it entirely. I tried to make it so they had to go on one side down to the stairs, and they do actually do what they're told. I made it difficult to route this side with loads of plants in the way, but it's slightly easier to walk down the other side. Also, it's spring in this save, so a lot of the plants here look dead. I wanted them to look dead, but some of them will have flowers and leaves on in another time. Another season, you know what I mean. I then put some of these lovely creeping thorns underneath that little platform section and the stairs. The trouble is though, they can't walk over them for some stupid reason, and you'll see that in a moment. I play tested it and it didn't work. I do try to playtest these builds because as weird as they are actually supposed to be usable in your game, for playing. Not that building isn't playing. To think that I'm not actually playing this game right now because I'm building things is a really silly concept. Of course I'm playing a game. I opened the game, I'm having fun, playing with the parts of the game that I can use, and some parts of that game are building. There she is, she's stuck. But I just snuck those thorns somewhere else. Then I realised that this bedroom, while absolutely disgusting, was weirdly tidy. That needed to change, I thought, because if these children are as neglected as the tale suggests, I can't imagine this room is kept terribly tidy. I'm also very horrified by the slots that are available on top of those chest of drawers. There's 2 slots, and when you put the items on them, they clip either over the edge, just hovering in the air, or into the wall behind them. So I used a combination of tool, the red shelf, and my favourite thing to do, put the same object on top of the slots in all of the available slots, and then use another object to put into the place you actually want it, and then delete the ones in the slots. I haven't started doing that yet, but I do soon. And here I'm playtesting all of the beds to make sure they work. You see that one bottom bunk over the stair hole? That works somehow. And also at least one of the chest of drawers works. And I put in some lamps and also a light because I realised that the build was very dark, and that was because there was no light in this room. But I added a dangly light from Journey to Batu. And I also tried to fix this bulgy bit. I don't know how to describe it, but I wanted the curve to look smooth, and it was hard to do. I also did lots of clutter in the kitchen, and for some reason I put newspaper under the fridge. I just felt like it looked like maybe the fridge leaks a lot because they don't defrost the freezer part. You may have also noticed some lemons and limes next to a cocktail mixer and some bottles that maybe look like alcohol. I just thought maybe the old woman has a bit of a drinking problem. And so I put in lots of bottles of wine too. I think I'd drink a lot if I had this many children and lived in a shoe. Apologies for the noise in that bit. Blame my neighbours. Put in some mirrors because that's the kind of thing I always forget to do. There's also 0 plants in this build. I just didn't think that this woman would have the energy to look after a plant. I couldn't resist but put something from Dream Home Decorator in this build because the stuff from that pack, they're just beautiful. And here's a load of bills and things shoved under the mirror in the corner of her bedroom. That's not a good sign. And also loads of toothbrushes all on the one bathroom sink. And more clutter in the children's room. I then realised that the other side of these walls didn't have any of that breaking down distressing stuff on, because I looked at them from the other side and didn't think to turn them round. But I sorted it out, so no harm done. I also remembered to put bins in, and toilet rolls. And here's the finished shoe. I'm going to say this was a success. It looks pretty much like a shoe, as much as I can do in The Sims, I think. And there's the old woman who lived in a shoe, who had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread. And she doesn't look very bloomin' happy about doing it either, does she? And then apparently she whipped them all soundly and put them to bed, and I just don't know what it means by whipping soundly. Does that mean she beat them appropriately? This girl doesn't look very happy, so maybe that is what it means. She knows the beating's about to come. Oh dear. These fairy tales and nursery rhymes are always very dark, aren't they? And here's just some random rooms. I had to tour it somehow, and there isn't really enough of the tale to do a proper little machinima here. So let's skip the whipping part for now and say they all walked upstairs to bed of their own accord, and then did whatever they liked, because I imagine the children do their own thing most of the time. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Speed Build Storytime. Let me know in the comments what you'd like to see in future episodes. Nursery rhymes, fairy tales, I'm easy. And make sure you like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye bye now.